So in the previous chapter, we saw Akotsu taking serious blows from Takako and Ryu, and this led to Akotsu being like, all right, time to get serious. And he busts out the ring and he's like, come forth, Rika, give me everything. Because before this, we had only really seen her come out to help him against Kurorushi's cockroach swarm, and then she pretty much just protected the people in the stadium. But now it's like the gloves are off. It's time to get serious, and that's where we're coming to the beginning of the chapter here, where we're seeing the fully revealed form of the new Rika. And it's been a long time coming because this whole new dynamic introduced like over a year ago. And as she's being introduced here, we're also finally getting an explanation on what Akotsu's curse technique is, but just how this is all being explained is just very gege. That's all I can really say about this. But it says Rika is Akotsu's curse technique and can store cursed energy for him. Rika remained with him after Rika Orimoto passed away, while connected to Rika through his ring. Following is possible: curse technique use, Rika's complete manifestation, cursed energy supply from Rika. He can maintain a sustained connection for 5 minutes. And like I said, while it's finally telling us what Akotsu's dynamic with this Rika thing is, it's still kind of ambiguous, especially after what Takako says later on in this chapter and what Kenjaku said previously regarding Akotsu. But that aside, this is easily one of the best, I'll say, dynamics in the series by far. And him having the 5-minute sustained connection is very necessary, because if he didn't have this, he would just be so unbelievably broken that there would never really be any stakes with this character, because we see just a glimpse of what he's capable of doing when he's fully unleashed against Takako. Like when I was first reading that, I was like, oh my god. But as for it saying curse technique use, I guess this is the copy aspect of Akotsu's abilities, or as Kenjaku said, the ability to unconditionally copy curse techniques. And it's really weird how it works, because it's not like what we typically see with like the characters and, you know, stories that have the ability to copy things. Like usually they just like look at somebody or whatever their condition is and then they immediately have the ability. With Akotsu, it's different. It kind of just subtly comes on and you never really know when or if he even copied an ability. And I think that's pretty cool, to be honest, but I assume that we're going to get more information on this as the story goes on. Also, as we go more into these Fujiwara individuals, or just Fujiwara, if he is actually related to Akotsu or if it's just a misunderstanding from Takako. Regardless, we're going to get more information about them. And then of course we can't forget about Michizane Sugawara, who we know is confirmed, at least by Gojo, to be an ancestor of Akotsu, who is also said to be one of the 3 big vengeful spirits, so he's implied to be in the same tier as Sukuna. He immediately goes for Takako, but then busts out curse speech on her. We saw previously in volume 0 that he manifested like this megaphone to be able to use it, but he doesn't need it anymore. He's come so far that he just straight up does it the same way that Inumaki does. And I like that Takako is recognizing immediately what's going on with it, so clearly she herself has come across a curse speech user in the past. But he says don't move, and this like paralyzes her. And we're coming to the sequence I was talking about where I was like, oh my god. Like Akotsu in the back, Rika in the front, just leveling her with strikes. Apparently this isn't even enough for Ryu, who's like, hey, you're way too soft, man, and fires off one of his hair seros at him. But Rika, just like Akotsu, is able to swat this thing away barehanded. But this time Rika's hand was only like burned a little bit. We saw that it like blew off Akotsu's fingers, and realizing that Ryu is like, that thing deflected it, it might be even tougher than Akotsu. And then she just levels Ryu. But surprisingly, Ryu like immediately recovers himself and gives like a counter to Rika and sends her flying too. So yeah, I mean, we already knew this, but Ryu is like really powerful. And then this exchange, of course, intrigues him, because he's like, I still got an appetite that calls for an extra large helping. That's like the dynamic of his character. He's like a Saiyan or something. Then Akotsu like pulls some of his hair out and makes these little Rika bat shikigamis. And it turns out that this is actually Dhruv's curse technique. Kako says the trajectories of the shikigami constitute the domain, and we knew that that was like the dynamic of Dhruv when he was introduced, by having like those 2 big mole rat things. They constituted his domain. And this goes back to his copy ability. I guess it more so gives him the foundation to practically adapt an ability. But as Takako is fighting these She once again name drops the Fujiwara, saying like, you Fujiwara are always in my way. Are you that afraid of me becoming somebody? And then the narrator says the Sun, Moon, and Stars Squad is a group of assassins directly affiliated with the Toe. They pursue lives of selfless devotion and darkness, forsaken of the right to bear a name. So the Sun, Moon, and Stars Squad was the first bit of little info that we got on Takako when she was first introduced. But going further, it says, yet that person gave me a name to execute me as a proxy for that person's crime of killing a member of the same clan. So more ambiguous dialogue here. Obviously this relates to like the Fujiwara stuff, and considering that this keeps coming up and we keep getting little bits of info into Takako rather than Ryu, I'm assuming that Takako is probably going to survive this fight and maybe go on to stick around or something like that. I don't know if she's gonna have a full-blown face turn, but as we've seen so far with the other individuals like Megumi and Yuji, one of the people that they meet in their stretch of chapters sticks around afterwards. So Takako could be that person for Akotsu. And then we get this little exchange between Akotsu and Takako where he's like, I don't know what my ancestors did to you, but living only for yourself will only get you so far. So I don't know if this is Akotsu like directly realizing that he is related to Fujiwara, or if he's just kind of saying this to just appease Takako, or he's just giving her the benefit of the doubt, like assuming that she probably knows more than him because she comes from the past. And then she says, live for others, you don't need to be anybody special. The only ones who can say that are people who have already achieved something. And this, I guess, goes back to the regrets that she may or may not have had, which is another element of her possibly coming into the culling game, and which I think is another reason why she's probably going to make it out of this. Or if she does wind up kicking the bucket, she's going to drop some super useful exposition before she does. That brings us to the end of the chapter where Ryu is like, oh, shut up at this point, words are pointless. And then all three of them activate their domain expansion. So this is incredible because I'm pretty sure this is the first time we're ever seeing something like this. I mean, we didn't even really get to see 2 domain expansions going at it that much, let alone 3. But not only that, this is like the debut of Akotsu's domain expansion, and I have no idea what it could be. I assume it has something to do with copy, right, since that's like his innate ability. But what's going to happen at this point? Well, from what we've seen, the stronger domain will usually overpower the weaker one. So in theory, Akotsu should just be able to expand over the both of them. Unless they're closer in power than we think, then maybe they all kind of butt heads with each other and they're all kind of simultaneously existing. I mean, we're at least going to get to see a glimpse of what Takako and Ryu can do, right? Because it would be a little anticlimactic and weird if they're just completely blown away before us seeing anything about them. Or they could always just manifest their domain enough to break out of Akotsu's domain expansion if he does wind up overpowering them. So many intriguing variables going into this, and this is just new territory for the story and the readers. And I'm just super curious to see where this is headed, but let me know what you think about this in the comments. What do you think Akotsu's domain expansion could be? And what do you think is going to happen when the 3 of them converge? Let me know. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.